Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North East Non-League Show, episode 5. And joining us tonight is Paul Dixon. Paul, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Hopefully, I'll have Mark Ruffers on very shortly as well. We've just been waiting in the guest room, but it hasn't turned up yet. But hopefully, be on very shortly there. We'd just like to say before we start the show, proudly sponsored by Bay Watch TV at Whitley Bay, sponsored by Sun and West End, and proud to support If You Care Share Foundation as well. But a very special show tonight, obviously FA Cup weekend coming up, and I know we've just been chatting away there, Paul, in the back, and some amazing memories just from yourself in the FA Cup. So we definitely have to share some of them stories as we go ahead tonight. We're just starting with yourself, Paul, obviously, to get to know our guests. And I know you've worked a lot for BBC, Newcastle, and your non-league. It's quite amazing, like you said, 20 years that you've been working in it. And I mean, where did the passion for non-league come from?
Well, when I was 20, I signed for Ashton Football Club, and I played for those for a couple of years, and then went to play for Newcastle Blue Star, and was very, very lucky in 1978 to be part of the team that played at Wembley that won the FA Awards. I mean, we were the first team in the Northeast. There's been an awful lot of teams. In fact, I've been to Wembley, I think, 12 times and commentated on 12 FA Awards finals. Oh, yes, I've had some great times up there. And the non-league was just in us all the time. I mean, when I was in the Northern League First Division, there was only one league then. I mean, now there's two, right? So you had to be a very good player to play in the Northern League. And we had some marvellous teams like Blythe Spartans, Bishop Auckland, Spennymoor. They were absolutely outstanding teams, you know, and they all had good FA Cup runs themselves. So I was at Whitley Bay, and I played for Brandon. And my last season, I played for a team really up at Northumberland called Alnwick Town, who's their ground's called the Real St James's Park, they like to call it. You know? And then I went to work reporting on football games for the Football Pink. There'll be a few older members who are listening tonight who'll remember the Football Pink, and they'll all say, "Oh, I wish the Football Pink was back." But you know, we get all the scores from 3 o'clock now. You know, we didn't have to wait till 6 o'clock at night. We get them at 3. And so then I joined the Football Pink. And then I got asked to join the BBC to do outside covering of games and commentary with Barry Heinsohn, who was there for a long, long time. And that's where I've met like John Anderson and Gary Bennett and Nick Barnes and Matthew Reisbeck, who covers Newcastle United's game, who is absolutely brilliant. He loves the non-league as well. I mean, he's a big Gateshead fan. He really is. And you're right, I've had 20 years. So we've had FA Cup, brilliant games. We've had FA Trophy and FA Awards. And we've had, you know, some wonderful teams over them 20 years. And I still think we've got really good teams in the Northeast as well, as we stand now.
Oh, we have. Yeah, definitely. I mean, very hard, this question, I would imagine, but looking back over the years of watching as many games as you have, if you could go back to relive one of those game memories, what game would you pick out?
Well, I think the main game, well, two probably, was when I was assistant manager at Whitley Bay, and we got to the second round of the FA Cup, and we drew Preston at home. And there was 5,500 at the game. I think there was a little bit more than that, to be honest, but there was 5,500. And it was a terrific day because they had the manager, who was John McGrath, who had played for Newcastle United for an awful lot of years. And the chairman was Tom Finney, Sir Tom Finney, who played for England, right?
Yes.
And, it was a fantastic game, and you know, we were underdogs. We were about 6-1 to win that game that day because Preston were doing very well, and we beat them 2-0. Hey, Mark.
All right.
We beat them 2-0, and celebrations at the end were marvellous, you know. But then we went into the third round, and we could have you know, we could have had Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, whoever, Newcastle or Sunderland, and we got Rochdale. And what the FA Cup does to you, once you're out, you're out. So we lost 1-0 to Rochdale in the third round. And that was, but a fantastic run. We played about 9 games to get there. And that day against Preston was probably one of the best. The other one was probably at Wembley when my son was playing there and I was commentating. Mark was there, I think, that day. When you're commentating on your son, you have to be unbiased, right? Which is very difficult, you know. But they were the 2 best days, I would say, you know. Really well.
Really, really great stories there. Mark, Evening, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your time as well.
I apologise for being late. I got wrapped up in work, so I've just had to jump on quickly, but I apologise.
No, not a problem at all. Like you say, I'm absolutely delighted for you to be on the show. I mean, both of you, I absolutely love your work and always looking out as much as I can and always buying the newspapers. I know my wife's always asking what you're doing on a Sunday morning. I'm always reading your bits and pieces that's on all of the social media and the papers. Absolutely love your work.
The Sun today was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was. I think it had about 15 pages. It seemed, Mark, didn't it? You know?
It felt that way last night, I tell you. But it's just a shame I wasn't reporting on a Hebburn Town win, but it wasn't for the lack of effort. They were excellent yesterday, Hebburn, and just got done by a daft late penalty.
It can happen, can't it?
Yeah, the match Warrington Town for large parts of the game, and then just a bit of a silly decision in the last minute to make a tackle when there probably wasn't a tackle to be made has cost them. But no, they've had a good start, and I think they'll build on it now.
Yeah, really good having that. Just asking Paul earlier there, with yourself as well, Mark, how did you love kind of non-league football come around?
Well, when I was younger, I used to go to games at funny enough, Newcastle Blue Star with my dad when Newcastle United weren't playing, but they obviously went through a spell being called, was it RTM, Dicker, wasn't it?
Yes,
RTM,
it was. Yes, yeah.
So around that time as well. Then I moved over to Burtley with my ex-partner. We'll not go into too many details about that. But went to watch Burtley Town, went to watch Nissan then, went to watch Washington. But then in terms of my career, started working as a volunteer at Blythe Spartans.
Right.
When there was this bloke kept coming from BBC Newcastle and just irritating us all the time. But yeah, you know, I was there with Blythe during the last cup run when they played Hartlepool in Birmingham and had a great run. And from there, you know, obviously got into working with nonleaguedaily.com and went freelance after that. So, but the love of non-league, it sounds really corny to say it, but it's just a pure version of football. You know, there's no bluster around it. You know, there's not many. Well, there are quite a few people who will spin a yarn, but you look at it and you just think there's not a place at the top end of the game where you can go and have a pint with the chairman after a game, or you know, to fellow fans and players and all that after a game. It's kind of the way football used to be when I feel I first started going at the top end of the game, when things were a little bit different. There wasn't that distance between supporters and players, and I just love the togetherness. You know, when you see, I mean, I was at Hebburn yesterday until about 6:15, and you've still got volunteers there doing different jobs to make sure the place is tidy, and it's just that all in it together spirit that we love.
And what I would say is, I think non-league football is grew, and we're growing with it. It really is. I mean, you know, we're talking about the crowds. I mean, you know, midweek I was up at Ashton for the FA Cup replay, and you know there was 1,500 there. I mean, it's unbelievable the crowds. I mean, Mark. I mean, there was a decent crowd at Hebburn yesterday, Mark.
It wasn't as good as I think it could have been. I think it may have been slightly underwhelmed. It was just over 200. But
I mean, there was nearly 400 at Whitley Bay yesterday, and I think there was about 450 up at Ashton, and that's with Newcastle being at home as well.
Yeah.
So the non-league's really going well. It is.
There is a direct impact on attendances when Newcastle and Sunderland are at home, but I think maybe what we're seeing now is when Newcastle and Sunderland aren't at home, you do see more supporters of those clubs going to non-league games. It's not a case of what am I going to do now? It is they will go to non-league games. But I must say as well, from our point of view, I think what we are seeing as clubs across the board, from sort of Gateshead downwards, are promoting themselves better on social media.
Yeah.
They're promoting fixtures, and that's had a direct impact. And that comes down to, yes, some clubs do have full-time employees in charge of their media, but a lot of them have, volunteers and such like, and students helping them, which is great because they're doing a great job.
I think it's a way of life now. When I was at Whitley Beer yesterday, and they talk about media all the time to get it out there, and I think it's very exciting because especially with Mark, I read Mark's Twitters and his pieces all the
brilliant.
time. But everybody reads it and everybody wants to get involved. And Mark keeps you right up to date. He does. If there's a hint of news come out, Mark's on the job straight away.
Thanks.
No, but like you say, it's that togetherness as well. We just went down as our first vlog that we did for our North East non-league show last week. It's Sunderland West End versus Brandon. And within kind of an hour or so of us kind of putting the vlog on the Sunday, the message that we got from Brandon United staff, Sunderland West End, I know I just live around the corner, but being invited back down and potentially going back out and doing a lot of this more again. And even after the game, like you say, my son went in, got a hot dog off the chairman, says, there you go, there's a hot dog. And we just went around expecting to do a few videos, and we ended up kind of in the dugout interviewing both managers, watching the players warm up, speaking to the players. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. And even just us putting little things on in our new group, and within a day we put an advert out for a media to go and help down to Sunderland West End, and that was filled within 2 hours of a post going in the group. And they just kind of thanked us enough for the support, and it's really good, man, isn't it?
It's brilliant, and that sums it up. Dick normally gets my hot dog and stuff for us, but
I'll look after him.
He does. Scores at half time and everything, but yeah, that kind of sums it up. When we go to clubs, the welcome you get is overwhelmingly fantastic. We've had some real special moments, even just this season, with clubs where, yes, sometimes we do go to different games, but more often than not, we're at the same game. And
well, because they're the big game, and really in some ways, when you talk about, like match of the day is all the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah.
But when the FA Cup's on, the BBC go to different grounds. But, when we go to watch a non-league game, I think they sometimes think it's like match of the day coming to see them, both of them together, So they get one on the radio, and then they get the whole Sunday Sun the next day. So they get really good coverage. It's very difficult, though, to get round all the teams now because a lot of the teams from the Northern League have moved up and they're playing in a bigger league. And, we've got Gateshead, we've got South Shields, we've got Blythe, Morpeth, playing in big competitions. So, we have to try and fit as many in as we possibly can. And it's not easy. It isn't.
It's not.
No,
and I think this season, we spoke about it, Dicker, where it's getting more and more difficult to choose which game to go to on a Saturday because there's always big games. Now, from the Sunday Sun's point of view, I'm very, very fortunate this season that I've got 3 students help me from Sunderland University, which has been fantastic, to be fair, and they're doing a great job.
And you've had some good Friday night games, Mark, haven't you, as well?
We've had some really good Friday night games, and I think that's something that clubs, I should say, are starting to push a bit more. I will just give a quick shout out to the 3 lads. So it's Harvey Hinkler, Luke Dudden, and Nathan Bell have helped me this season. They've been fantastic. Really helped with the coverage because obviously, can't be everywhere at the same time. So it's a case of having to identify, 3 games across the board that will be covered in the Sunday Sun. One normally at Northern League level, one Northern Premier, and one National League. To keep that coverage ticking over, and it's been brilliant. It's been a great season so far. Again, every time me and Dick speak, we have something different to talk about, which is
we do. But we've had FA Trophy yesterday. There's 4 wonderful games next weekend in the FA Cup. And then the week after that, it's the FA Vars. And I mean, we're on the road to Wembley again. Who's it going to be this year? We don't know, but it may well be somebody, you know.
It's my 40th birthday.
Spoiled for choice.
I'm saying it's my 40th birthday that week as well. So there's plenty of something.
I know what you're saying, yes.
And Tony's just mentioned there as well in the comments, one of our great listeners, he loves reading the stuff on social media as well. And he's just mentioning Crumpton Northern Alliance Friday night, nearly over 200 people there as well. They love the North East game. It's amazing. And I mean, getting on to FA Cup of the weekend, and it's amazing that we've got like the 4 teams that's in there, and we've got to start off Ashington, and like you say, midweek, what an attendance. And it was just good from waking up on that morning, just going through the days, seeing Brian Shotton's updates, saying how many tickets have been sold, next post. And you knew that there was going to smash the 1,000 without a doubt. But to see almost 1,500 there, and quite a comfortable win, it was nice to see them getting the next round, wasn't it, Mark?
I mean, I was down there at the Stocksbridge game, down in Stocksbridge, and I have to say, I've been away with a lot of sort of Northeast non-league clubs at games like this, but
yeah,
the atmosphere created by the Ashington fans that day was incredible. I mean, for me, they must have had 60-65% of that attendance comfortably. Now, the minute that game was done, there was talk about trying to get 4 figures there for the replay, and you've got to think that's in the space of what, 72 hours?
Yeah.
So it's an unbelievable effort. And I look at people like Brian Bennett, so Scoop, who's the media manager, press officer at Ashington, been there for a long, long time and done a wonderful job. I think a young striker called Paul Dixon was playing when he started there.
He did. His first game was covering me. I remember the game where it was against Whitby. We drew 4s each, and I scored on my debut. And Brian keeps reminding us every time. But that's a great mention. That's a great mention of a lad like that, because he's so passionate about Ashington. I mean, Mark, you were at Gateshead last week, weren't you, when I was up at Ashington, right? The atmosphere that night was incredible. I don't know where they get all them drums from as well, you know. I mean, I had have a few paracetamols when I come back, you know, but it was a fantastic result. And Mark, I think they'll take quite a few down to Kings Lynn as well, won't they?
Yeah, I think there's a so I think we need to give a plug for Brian Shotton as well, by the way, because
amazing today, hasn't it?
I've noticed today that he sort of said if any Ashington fans, for whatever reason, can't afford to pay for the trip down there, he'll look to see if they can be supported to get down to Kings Lynn. Not a short trip, you know. I've been down there myself. It's a long way. It's not, if we're honest, it's not a great draw for them. No. It's a very, very tough tie against a team that are flying in the National League North. They don't get great crowds down at Kings Lynn, and then obviously the journey as well. So it is a tough one. I wouldn't rule anything out with Ashington. I'm not saying I think they'll get turned over down there. I'm not saying anything like that, but it is a very tough game. And what I've noticed with this Ashington side is the togetherness that they've got has taken them so far.
Yeah.
And I really think that they'll give them a good game, put it that way.
I mean, we had Neil Cooper on. He said exactly the same thing. He said we came on literally after a training night a few weeks ago, and he says just coaching them type of players and the quality that they have, the leaders in change rooms, and they're putting that all together. It's just a joy to go and work in every day of training, or every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then coming to the weekend, the players going out there thinking that they can go out and win every game this season, which it's a good feeling to have, isn't it?
It is. I think of Ashington. I think if the experienced players are really up for the game, and they can, it would be wonderful if we could get them back to Ashington for a replay. I'm not saying they're going to win. I mean, they're going to be big outsiders against a team that's top of the league and they're full time, right? But look at it's the FA Cup, and what happens in the FA Cup? Miracles, man! It really is, and it's exciting. But we've got 3 other teams very much in the FA Cup as well, haven't we?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, just before we get into them, just going around one by one with kind of our predictions for the Ashington Kings Lynn game. Start with yourself, Paul. What you're going for? Score, or do you think it's going to be back to a replay?
Oh, well, I would be delighted with nils each. But it's a tough tie. But I'm going to stick me chin out and see let's see if they can get a draw. Right?
Yeah. And yourself, Mark?
Right. I just think on their own pitch, if this was at Ashton, if it was at Woodhorn Lane, I think I'd be saying something different. But I just think this is me popping a pin in everything here, isn't it? I just think Kings Lynn may have too much. But I think Ashton will give them a very, very good game. And I hope they can do it. 2003, last time we had an Northern team in the first round of the FA Cup, and that's too long. So it'd be lovely to see Ashton with the journey they've been on, because they haven't, by Ian Skinner's own admission, they haven't had a lot to sing about over the last sort of 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's not so long ago they had to strip the finances back and bring in a lot of young players, which Ian's done a fantastic job with them and his coaching staff. It'd be lovely to see them get through. But if I'm being honest, I just think Kings Lynn may have too much.
Yeah, well, on my last show, we said I went for the FA Cup magic. I did go for a 1-1 draw down there and beating the back up here. So fingers crossed for that one. But getting on another cracker as well, which I know a lot of Blythe fans know on Twitter over the moon with it. The Blythe Wrexham game. I mean, what a game! We just mentioned it last Sunday on our show, kind of about the last time they played. It was at St James's Park, and the next night or the next day they get pulled out the draw, which is quite a surprise itself as well. But starting with that one, I know since Fenton's came in, he's done a really good job there. Do you fancy them against Wrexham, Mark?
Again, the thing, and I've said this before, and I said it on I was on a Twitter space last Monday night after the draw, and I said everything in this game points towards a Wrexham win. Everything, budgets of the players, budget of the squad, quality of the players in their squad, league form, everything points towards Wrexham winning. But this is the FA Cup. It's at Croft Park, and it's Blythe Spartans. Now, if there's one thing Spartans know how to do, it's pull off a major shock in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
So that just puts that 0.1% doubt in my mind that Wrexham will come away with a win. Now, don't get me wrong, Spartans will have to play out of their skins. They'll have to have a fair slice of luck. Wrexham will probably have to have an off day. But with that one, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Again, I think Wrexham may have too much, if I'm honest. But again, because it's Blythe Spartans and the FA Cup, you just never know.
Yeah. And yourself, Paul, like I say, it's FA Cup magic. What was a Blythe? I know we had a few kind of non-league players on interviews over the last few weeks, and we had Stephen Turnbull on, and I mean, he was in a part of the magic against Hartlepool. Can they pull it off again, Paul?
Well, it'll be very tough. I mean, they scored 7 yesterday, I believe.
Cracking game.
They're very much the Hollywood club, as you would say. Am I right? Am I right, Martin, saying they've just signed Robert Lee's son? Has he joined them? So the quality of the players. I think the Blythe fans, with the crowd behind them, and Graham Fenton's a good friend of mine, and he knows how to get them, wound up for the game, and it is the FA Cup. If they can hang on in the game as long as they can, that'll be it. I mean, we don't really want Wrexham to go 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes and then the game's probably over. But Mark's right. Mark's seen more of Blythe than I have in the FA Cup, and there's a bit of magic at Croft Park. There really is, and it's a fantasy draw, isn't it? Really, to get Wrexham.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. I just wonder how many Blythe fans and Wrexham fans will see I was at St James's, because everybody you speak to, I was there. I was there, And they played brilliant that night, at Wrexham. They were very, very, very unlucky, but they'll need things to go their way on Saturday. It's an exciting game, and I'm looking forward to it. Are you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Graham Fenton, when I interviewed him about the draw for the non-league paper and for the Chronicle and Journal, he came up with a nice line, which was, there's only one more difficult draw they could have got than playing Wrexham at home, which was playing Wrexham away. So, it's one of them. But I just, like I said, because it's Blythe, because it's the FA Cup, you have that slight doubt in your mind that the result may not go the way you think. So it is going to be a tough one because they're flying at the minute, Wrexham. I mean, I know they got beat against Notts County last Tuesday, but Notts County on another level as well. So But I can't wait for the game. I think it's going to be a great occasion. I hope there's a massive crowd there. Obviously, it's on ESPN in America as well, which is something I can't imagine too many Spartans games have been on.
Definitely not.
There'll be a few Spartans fans in America, won't there? They'll all be. What time is it gonna? If it's 1 o'clock over here? What time will it be in USA?
About 5 or 6 in the morning.
Well, they'll be setting our alarms and they'll have their green and white strips on and their flags and giving it that, man. They really will,
Oh, fantastic, that one. I'm just going on again, score predictions, thoughts on that one. Paul, yourself first?
Oh. Well, if they can hang in a long time, I mean, I cannot see them winning, but let's say we'll give Wrexham a 1-0 victory, which would be respectable for Blythe then, I would think.
Yeah. And yourself, Mark?
Yeah. Again, I think they'll just have too much for Blythe. I think. I look at the squad, the fact they're full time, the quality of players that they've got, particularly top end of the pitch.
Yeah.
Again, I will say Blythe will have to play very well to get something, and Wrexham won't have to play very well for that to happen as well. But yeah, I think Wrexham will win.
I'll tell you what will be interesting, very interesting to see how many Wrexham fans come all the way up to support their team because of the Blythe Spartans. It will, because they've got an affection there, haven't they? They really have.
I think it's almost sold out for Wrexham.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think they got 800 tickets they've got at the Plessy Road end.
And have all them gone? Yes.
I think so. Yeah, could make it interesting.
No, it's really good. I know I went for a very close game, and because I wrote them off in the last round, I actually went for Chorley in that one, so I've gone for a 1-1 draw the other night on that one. So that's fingers crossed again. If you get a, like you say, replay, go down there again, it'll be even better for them as well. Some really good stuff going on. Next game, another massive one as well, South Shields versus Scunthorpe, and you kind of look and you forget kind of where Scunthorpe are now, and you look a few years ago, they're playing Championship, back to League One, Championship, back to League One, and all of a sudden they've just gone on a bit of a down spiral. But yeah, just going on to the South Shields game, and I think it's funny because you look at them almost kind of favourites, I would say, going into it. I know my friends, he's a massive South Shields fan. He's kind of wrote Scunthorpe already. Going into that one, I mean, what's your thoughts on that one, Paul?
Well, I'm pleased they got back on winning ways yesterday. Yeah. I mean, they got beaten. They got beat midweek, and that was a bit of a setback. I spoke to Kevin Phillips last weekend when we were over there covering the game, and I suggested to him that he would want an extended run in the FA Cup, and I think he would like to be promoted and win the league more than have an extended run in the cup, which they're a few games behind. But I think when the FA Cups come along and they've drew Scunthorpe, I think they'll want to beat them. And I really think that the fans will want an extended run. It's a tough game against Scunthorpe, but on that day up front, if they can take their chances, I mean the last game that I was there, they were brilliant. They scored 5 and they were very exciting going forward. And then they let themselves down on the Wednesday, but they bounced back yesterday. I think they'll give Scunthorpe a real big game. I really do. I mean, they're not setting the world alight, Scunthorpe. No. And I think, you can nearly say it'll be a full house, but there's a full house every week, isn't there, Mark? Right? They get 2,500, 3,000 there, I think they'll go very close. South Shields, I do.
I think you make an interesting point that you said there about the FA Cup run or the league promotion. Now we've got to remember that there is a plan at South Shields to progress into the top levels of football and beyond, and go into the into the football league. And I think because that plan's been held up by a number of reasons. One, the FA's inexplicable decision to forfeit the season or whatever you want to cut classes as, and no out results. Then, of course, last year they had the disappointment of the playoff performance. We were there that night and certainly didn't deserve to win that game against Warrington.
No, they didn't. No. It was a bitterly disappointing night. I remember penalty shootout, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah. So they've had 3 years of being stuck in the Northern Premier League, Premier Division. I just feel the league is the priority this year. They've got to get up.
They've got to get up this year. They've really got to get up this year.
And to be fair to Jeff, he's backed him again, backed the management again this
year.
year.
Yes, massively.
Bringing in some, let's be honest, Football League standard players. I think they'll go up, if I'm honest. I know they had that blip midweek, but I think they will win that league. In terms of the FA Cup, it's almost a bonus for them. And getting through will, bit more finance into the coffers. This one, I've got to be honest, I can see South Shields win this. Scunthorpe, they're sat near the bottom of the National League. They haven't adapted to life in non-league football. There'll be a big crowd there, an expectant crowd there. I really think South Shields, with their experience in midfield, Michael Woods has had a great start to the season there, in great form. I can see South Shields pulling this one off, and I think a 2-1 win.
Would you think South Shields are favourites being at home?
I think it's difficult to make them favourites when they're giving up a 2-league deficit to Scunthorpe.
Yeah.
But I think there's a very strong argument to do it because of the form that Scunthorpe are in, and the fact they seem to be completely lacking in confidence at the moment.
Yeah. Things are not great at Scunthorpe, you're right at the minute, but it'll be a tough game. But I really hope they get through. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Mark went for a 2-1 win there. I said 2-0 as well, just because I think now with the likes of Gary Little, Michael Woods, Football League players there, the experience and the leaders that they've got, it's going to be a packed South Shields on Saturday, and I've 100% guaranteed for myself, I would love to see them go through. For my friend as well, I know he's been there through thick and thin over the last few years and missing out on, like you said, that game that got wrote, or the season that got wrote off because of COVID. I know I was there against FC Manchester. The points that they were clear at that time, that was it. It was game over there then that day, wasn't it, really? So it'd be nice to see them go up this season and hopefully have a little run in the FA Cup as well.
I think they'll win, and I think they'll probably win about 2-0 and big celebrations after the game.
Hopefully. And the last one as well, and I think this is definitely going to be a kind of game that Altrincham and Gateshead is kind of going to focus on, because they are kind of around the same place for each other in the league, and I think this could be a good focus to get away from that and concentrate and have a good little cup run possibly. Starting with yourself, Mark, what's your thoughts on this game?
Now, I wouldn't read anything into what happened last Tuesday between the two sides at the International Stadium, because I don't think Altrincham are actually as good as they looked that night. And I certainly don't think Gateshead were as bad as they looked that night. I think it was just one of those nights where Gateshead underperformed, Altrincham played well. That's kind of what happens in the National League this year. It's all about who turns up on the day. Barring the very top sides, I don't think there's a lot between maybe 6th in the league and bottom of the league. It's a tough game. There is no question about that. Gateshead are going to be up against it down there. They've got a horrendous injury list that will hopefully start to improve in the coming weeks. I mean, the amount of players they've had to bring on loan just to cover for injuries.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, and I apologise if I am, but I think this is probably the biggest Gateshead squad I've seen for a long time. But it's only big because they've had to bring in loan players to fill for injuries.
Well, that's right. I mean, Mark, if you remember last year, I mean, they had, 90% was a settled team. Right?
It was, wasn't it?
Really, they were tight together. They didn't have many injuries. It's been horrendous this year. And, there's people stop me in the street and say, what's happening to Gateshead? And you have to just tell them that they've got lots and lots of injuries. And plus they lost 2 really top-notch strikers, who've gone to Notts County. But I think Gateshead love a run in the FA Cup. They've been to some, first, second rounds. They're very good to get there. And I think, I think they'll go down there. I think Mike Williamson will get them really, really fired up. And I wouldn't be surprised if I would say I would make them from the 4 teams my banker to go through. I really do. I think Gateshead will be up for it. Change from the league. The fans will be there. And no, I think they'll win. I really do.
Yeah. What would your scoreline be, Paul, for that one?
Well, I think that might be 2-0 down there, And, I mean, Mark, you said Mike Williamson's been playing, hasn't he, really? Yes?
It was his first appearance of the season last week. He played for just over an hour, I think.
Yes.
And he did all right. I mean, the class of player Mike is, having played at top end, he can manage himself through games.
Yeah.
And he kind of had to do that. I think in an ideal world, he would be, manager rather than playing.
He can't be. They've got injuries, haven't they?
Yeah, but he
got
can't be. I mean,
help out.
Losing Louis' Story was a blow.
Yeah.
Because Louis been unbelievable since he signed for them. Colin Magnay came back in yesterday. They got by the way, we should note that they got an unbelievable draw yesterday.
It's a great result. That was a top, because if you had said to me, how do you think they'll get on? I said, well, I think they'll get battered down there with their injuries, right? Yeah. So to get a 1-1 draw, that'll set them up nicely for the cup. They haven't got a game midweek, Mark, have they?
No, I haven't even looked at this week's fixtures. I've been that busy, but I don't think they have. No. But I think they'll get a draw down at Altrincham, and then bring them back up here and beat them. I didn't see anything that would scare me about Altrincham last week, even though the scoreline doesn't look great. And I just don't think Gateshead will play as poorly as it did like that night again. So I can see them getting a draw, and then beat them in the replay.
And then we'll know how they've drawn then in the cup, won't we, on Monday?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's always a special day, that one.
We've got 4 teams playing, right? How many will be in the hat on Monday? Please let we have somebody in. It would be nice, wouldn't it? And we might be shocked, mightn't we? We never know, do we?
No, it would be great. I mean, just getting back to Gateshead, I mean, we had Ian Watson on a few weeks ago, and just speaking to him over here, and he's hungry and he's passionate of just wanting Gateshead and him and Mike to go and do things at that club. I mean, I watched them a few games last season, and the football that they play and the closing down, how quick it is, and they've had to adapt really quick over the summer because of it. You lose 2 of your main goal scorers in Langstaff and obviously Scott as well, and it's 2 massive players that they're losing out. And I mean, I just want to get your thoughts on this one as well, because I know there's been a lot of scouts watching them. Banging the goals in for Notts County. Do you think he will be away in January? I know there's a few clubs that I think Ian said are watching him for the January transfer window coming up. Do you think he will leave Notts County, Langstaff in that time?
Well, what I would see is that I've had about 6 or 7 Football League scouts have rang me and asked me about him, and I just give him a 5-star rating. I mean, me and Mark watched him last year, and he was just incredible,
Yeah.
Was I surprised he left Gateshead to go to Notts County? Not really. I mean, they're a club that are getting 6, 7, 8,000 to go and watch them. They'll have money. But if I was a Football League club higher up, I would take a chance with him. He's got speed, and when he's through on goal, he scores. I think if you ask the Notts County fans, and he's only been there 3 months, they'll tell you that he's a very, very exciting forward here. And he's the difference, right? And there's not many teams got centre forwards like him who can run away from people. Once he's in, he keeps a cool head and he finishes superbly. He does. He's a top-notch lad, him.
I think, well, I know there is interest from clubs in the Championship and below. I think it would take a substantial offer to persuade Notts County to part with them at the minute.
Yeah,
and I think it would be one of those offers where they couldn't turn it down.
Yeah,
I think I think they'll stay until the end of the season. Then they'll review the situation next summer, probably dependent on whether they're being promoted in the Football League or not.
Yes.
But I honestly, actually, we're focusing on Macaulay, and understandably, but Kedwin started to hit form now. Now, Kedwin Scott went down there and got COVID, so it hampered his pre-season preparations.
You're right.
It was against Gateshead, I think, wasn't it, when he came on as sub?
Yeah.
But now he's getting up to full speed, and I think you'll see. I'll be honest. I think Carlisle United dropped the ball with Kedwin. I think they didn't use him as they should have done, and I think they probably could have had a player that would have scored goals in the Football League had they given an opportunity. But yeah, going back to Macaulay Langstaff, I think he'll stay until the end of the season. Then, depending on where Notts are, you might see another move.
I think he'll score goals anywhere he goes.
Yeah.
He will. I mean, if he went higher, he would score goals. And if he went a little bit higher again, he might score some more goals. Very, very exciting player and a lovely lad. And he's got a good attitude, hasn't he, Mark? He really has.
Well, his hunger for goals and his hunger for the game are unquestionable. And, last year when he was going through an unbelievable patch of form throughout the season, you would speak to him and he was really humble. He didn't get carried away. Just a great kid. And what I will say, and Gateshead have had a little bit of criticism for letting both of them go, which is kind of not a true reflection of what happened. They both had release clauses. Notts County activated those release clauses. Now, they were put in contracts that were agreed, I think, quarter of the way through last season. If Gateshead hadn't agreed those deals, they could have lost them for nothing at the end of the season. So, they've made money on two players when they could have lost them for nothing. So, I think when you look at, again, it's been used against Gateshead, the fact they've gone on and done so well with Notts. But I think it's a little bit unfair when Mike and Busted haven't had a chance to field what I would class as their first choice forwards on a regular basis this season. But that will come. And I think long-term, Gateshead will be fine at that level. They just need to get through what is a challenging first season.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And Tony's mentioned again there, Blythe needed to borrow Robbie Dale for the game. And I think we're too busy down Ashton for that one, causing some cup magic again. And Tony's just mentioned as well, hope Gateshead have a sell-on clause, which, like I say, hopefully they really do, because, like you say, he could be going for big money. So it'd be nice to Gateshead to see a little bit of that if it does happen as well.
I think that'll be sorted, Mark. Do you think we'll have that? You think?
I think so. Yeah. Just Robbie for a second. I remember Robbie scoring a late winner for Blythe down at Kings Lynn. Scored a header in the 89th minute to win a game down there for them. So it'd be lovely to see him repeat that.
You've said it now, it's going to happen.
He didn't play yesterday, so I'm not sure, and he didn't play midweek. I'm not sure how bad his injury is. I mean, if you had a fit Robbie Dale, I know he's a lot older now, but if you had a fit Robbie Dale playing alongside Dan McGuire and Mason up front, there would be a real threat. But he's struggling at the minute to get over some sort of injury that he's got,
Definitely. And just before we finish, just want to kind of ask both of you the same question as well. I mean, yes, it's 4 games in the FA Cup, but you love the non-league scene, and even if they win the game or lose the game on Saturday, the money that the clubs are going to be making from this round, it's really massive for a little club like, say, like Ashton, and what they're trying to do now and move forward and try and push up the leagues as well. It's a great sum of money to have in there. It could be the difference where if you're pushing on towards the end of the season, bringing another 1 or 2 great players to make that final push, couldn't it? I mean, what does it mean to clubs if they do get through on Saturday, and even if don't get through, in the money that they're going to make from it, Mark?
Well, look, what we shouldn't forget is we've just come through a pandemic when clubs were shut down, but the finances that they missed out on were massive. And I think that some clubs across the country and the region are still recovering from what happened, 2.5 years ago. Looking at this cup run, I think let's be honest, they've all, Bourne Gateshead, who haven't played in the competition, they've all made good money from it. Particularly Ashton, who've come through, 4 or 5 rounds just to get to this stage.
They have 5 rounds, yeah.
Now, if they can go one step further, and I keep saying this, if they can go one step further and get at that first round, because they're a Northern League team, because they're in, step 5 of the non-league pyramid, as long as they get a decent draw, I think they're guaranteed a TV game.
Yeah, 100%.
If that happens, all of a sudden you're getting tens of thousands in from TV money. You probably get a full house somewhere, hopefully at home, and you get mega money. So that to me is a life-changing amount of money for a football club. Again, if we're talking about Ashton, that not so long ago were really struggling money-wise. But I think even for Blythe, South Shields, Gateshead, we looked at last season when Gateshead played Charlton on ITV on the Friday night, made a nice little sum of money from that. It's been put to good use. I know when I was at Blythe, when they got to the 3rd round, made some very good money on that run because of the BBC game against Hartlepool. that got used on the squad and improvements around the ground. The previous cup run put roofs on the stands at Croft Park.
Nice. Uh-huh.
And I'm sure Dicker will tell you what it did for Whitley Bay when they had the run.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, you make a lot of money. I think this round, right, is the big round to get through to the next round where it's even massive money, right? It really is. I think they get 9,000, I think, for winning this round. But what I'm pleased with is, because it didn't happen years ago, it was just the winner who got the money. The runners up now, I think Ashington will probably get about 4,000. Let's say they get beat 1-0, of Kings Lynn. Kings Lynn will get 9,000 and Ashington will get 4. But then if, could you imagine if Kings Lynn or Ashington play Ipswich Town at Ipswich and there's 30,000 people there? It's just, you're right, Mark. It's just mind-boggling, isn't it, for the money? Because Ashington would then get half the gate if they were going down to Ipswich. That's 15,000 times. It'll be costing you £20 to get in. It's the treasurer doesn't sleep this time of year with the FA Cup. But I wish them all the best this weekend. And me and Mark have talked, and I would like to quarter myself and go to the 4 games. It would be great, But it'll be live for us, Mark, won't it? That's where we'll be on Saturday.
Yeah, 1 o'clock kickoff at Croft Park. I was going to say that the money Whitley Bay made paid Dicker's wages for a week, didn't it?
It certainly did. I know what you're saying, right?
I think
but some of the stories we've had is amazing. Like you say, we had Turnbull on. He's obviously mentioned the cup run. We had Tom Wade on, who was obviously the management at that time, and we just had JJ O'Donnell on last week. It was kind of giving his memories as well. It sticks with players for years. Like we've had obviously Northern League players on where they might have played in the first ever qualifying round, but they said I've played in the FA Cup, and to them that's huge, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
You look at JJ. I mean, he played a big part in Luton's run, didn't he? When they beat Norwich, and that was a case of a non-league club beating a Premier League club, which doesn't happen very often. So yeah, just remarkable. But I look at I look at the FA Cup now, and I know it's lost a lot of its mystique for the clubs at the top end of the pyramid.
But not this time of year, Mark. It's brilliant this time.
It is.
It really is. It's exciting.
I read the non-league paper this morning, and the excitement around the country at non-league clubs for what's lying ahead next weekend is incredible. And you look at a big part of it is the 4 clubs that are coming in from our region and trying to get through to that first round. So it's a great time and it's a great competition. And I just can't wait for the weekend. Yeah, Blythe will be special. It'll be great being there, but all 4 clubs have got their chance to shine as well.
When we're at Blythe, watching Blythe, we'll be following the other 3.
I bet.
Really.
well, not because the one are kicked off yet.
Oh, they're right. Yeah, dead right. Yes. So
we'll certainly, because obviously we'll stick around at Blythe to speak to managers and players and stuff. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we're never off my phone on a Saturday, are we?
No,
I bet.
So every goal that goes in. But I wish all the teams the best of luck. I hope the fans have a day to remember, right? Because we've all told stories, and good luck to them all.
Definitely. And again, just before we go, we've got to say massive thanks to Baywatch TV, Whitley Bay, Sunderland West End, and If You Care Share Foundation, which I know you're a huge part of, Mark, as well. Fantastic foundation down there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an ambassador for If You Care Share. Have been for around 4 years now, I think it is. I can't even put into words the work that they do because it's phenomenal. And people think it's just the Northeast. It's not. It's around the country. Matthew Smith, who was one of the co-founders, I mean, what he did last month was incredible. He ran from Chesley Street to Downing Street to raise awareness, to deliver a message to the incoming Prime Minister about keep supporting suicide prevention and mental health. Just Matthew is, and his family, I should say, they are some of the most inspirational people I've met in my life, and It's an honour to be part of the charity. I'm hoping this week to announce a challenge I'm doing next year to raise money for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great charity, and head to ifyoucareshare.co.uk for more information. There's a plug.
Definitely. Like you say, we've got the two Facebook groups now, the Newcastle one, obviously the non-league one now. There's so many members coming in, and we kind of set the Newcastle one up through lockdown, which I was saying to Paul before the show. It was really important to do something like that because the amount of fans where that Saturday is kind of a release to a lot of people, and we had a lot of messages kind of 2 or 3 weeks after the group being set up just to say thank you for giving us a small space to come and say, just to talk about the game, talk about something in the week, and it just kept a few people going. And I think it was quite important to get If You Care Share Foundation involved in both them groups, where it is out, like you say, outlet to someone if they need it, isn't it?
Well, football at the end of the day, it is, I hate saying this, it is just a game.
Yeah.
But you used the right phrase. It's an outlet for people. It's an escape. It's a form of escapism. When me and Dick are at a game on a Saturday, there's no better place to be in the world because you just get lost in this.
You do. He's dead right. I mean, I've been at home all week. My wife's been away with my sister. They've been on holiday. And, it's not like it is when they're not there. And I went to Whitley yesterday and had a great day. It was fantastic. It really was, And Mark tried, but you've got to build yourself up to go and watch the football. And, you're right. It's a real tonic. And especially when it's a good game and they've got, there's some wonderful goals being scored. But let's hope there's a lot of that next weekend.
Definitely. And a busy week for the channel as well. I was just saying to Paul before the show, we're getting Sky out this week and Virgin Media in, but Sky's been a bit funny. They keep switching the switch on and off. So the changeover's been a bit delayed now. So we're trying to cram as many shows in before Thursday. We've got another show coming at 9 o'clock tonight, the review preview show. Obviously looking back at Newcastle's 5-1 win yesterday and looking ahead to Man United next week, which I can't wait to get down there because I think we've got a great chance of turning them over as well. And another good show coming up tomorrow night. We got a National League North special on. We've got a Darlow, Spenny, Blythe, Gateshead fan coming on as well to share kind of their thoughts on the season so far and ahead. So I'm really looking forward to that. I love getting the fans' point of view across as well, which is really good. But got to say to yourself, Paul and Mark, it was an absolute pleasure having you on tonight. Like I say, honestly, two legends of the North East scene. I really look up to people like yourself. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And don't be frightened to ask we're on again because we'd love to come on.
Definitely. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for watching. Lots of great comments coming in and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night. If you haven't already, please subscribe.